Hello, Orca lovers everywhere. I'm Sami Mamarbashi, Communications Director for the Global Orca Society, and this is Global Orca Week 2022. Today, I'm here with Steve Byrne, our founder, and we are talking with Julie and Rodolphe, founders of Valhalla Expedition and collaborators with scientists that provide photos and reports of the orcas. Welcome, Julie and Rodolphe. Thank you for having a chat with us today.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing our story.
You want to talk a little bit about what you were talking about just before we put the recorder on?
Yeah, like I was saying, Rodolphe and I passionate about orcas, obviously, but we are not scientifics or professional photographers. We really wish to leave this job to the people who are dedicated with education, like marine biologists or else, who do their work, and it's not easy every day. So of course we have the chance to be on the field every day during the winter season in Norway. So like we have this opportunity, we share our data to them, but we really want to make the distinction between both. We are passionate and we try to help the community with what we can.
Well, that's great. And that, it's great that you're there. Maybe you're there at times or more times than to some of the researchers themselves. So I think it's a very valuable service you're providing just by being there and being with the orcas. And we'd like to hear more about the orcas. What I guess my first question is, in terms of how you got interested in orcas and how did you two get together?
So for Rodolphe and I, same. I mean, it came up like very early. For me, it was SeaWorld. I was like 3 years old. My parents brought me there and I saw something was wrong. Mm-hmm. And I always loved animals, and orcas was #1 top list, which I really wanted to see again in another kind of environment. And Rodolphe.
Well, for me, I saw when I was a kid the movie Orca, and I don't know why, but it became like a really big passion. And since then, I was maybe 10 years old, and I started to study where I could find them. So I saw a TV program about them in Vancouver Island, and when I was 20 years old, then I saved a lot of money and went every year, and sometimes every 2 years, to go paddling with them by myself. So then it has always been a passion for me.
Wow, that's interesting. So when you went to Vancouver, did you go out on the whale watching boats? Did you use your own boat? How did you get out on the water and see the orcas?
Yeah, no, the first time I was there, I went on the kayak by myself. So for 1 year, I tried to practice kayak in France. Because I didn't know anything about it. So then I arrived in Vancouver, and I remember it was Cormorant Island, and I rented a kayak. I could approach them from a distance. Then I went on a tour with a powerboat, and then I thought, okay, I have to come back. And every 2 years, I was saving money, and every 2 years coming back, and always by myself. And I did that maybe, I don't remember, but maybe 7 times.
Wow.
And camping like 10 days, 7 days, and see them. And I have so much memories about orcas in Vancouver Island. That was great.
That's great. That's great to hear. I mean, that's a fantastic place. I've been there myself, of course, and it's just it's the place everybody wants to go, but they don't realize that the North Atlantic, they got Iceland and Scotland and Norway. There's lots of orcas where you are too. Maybe a little more spread out from time to time, but also in big groups. That brings up another question. I was talking with Marie in Iceland, and she was saying that they get groups of sometimes 300, 400, 500 orcas at a time, and they're from all different pods and cultures, and they all mix together, which is the opposite of the Pacific Northwest. Does that occur in Norway as well?
Well, we have of course, a different kind of pods, which are gathering in the fjord in winter. Lots of different families. They are also pods which are not only fish eaters, but which have double feeding. So
Right.
we did also see a couple of times of hunts on harbor purposes during the winter, and the day after they were eating herrings.
Right,
So
right.
there was a mix.
So they're generalists, the same orcas might eat fish or eat a port harbor porpoise, depending on opportunity to feed.
Mhm.
Okay,
Usually it's more like in the middle of the season, which we could see it when they're quite like lots of energy after herring.
right.
So yeah, usually it's funny. I mean, it occurred each time, like in December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, 2 winters ago, we had 3 female orcas coming in the port. That was mid-October, and we thought, oh, that's the beginning of the season. That's crazy. It's early, it's beautiful.
Yes.
And it was a pod of, I guess, 8 to 10 orcas.
Yeah.
3 female came in the port and turned around in the port, checked every little corners. And we took some pictures, and we called Yves Jourdain,
Norwegian Orca
who is a
Survey.
researcher from the Norwegian Orca Survey, taking care of the research of the orca in Norway. And she said, oh, okay, I know this group, and they are orcas feeding on seals. So they do, sorry, the dogs are barking.
Oh, that's right. We love the dogs.
Orcas, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
maybe cats.
What are the dogs' names? I forgot.
So the big one is River,
Yeah.
is the youngest one, the border collie, and the smaller one is Siskin.
Cisco, okay. Yeah, it's great that you have
Yeah.
those dogs. And they go on the boat with you sometimes?
Sometimes in the summer, not in the winter. It's too
Yeah,
too rough,
okay.
too cool.
Well, we don't mind the dogs barking. The dogs are supposed to bark.
Yeah, that's true.
So back to the feeding. I know we've posted several of your photographs. You have the distinctive signature you use on your photos, so everybody knows it's your photo. And of course, one of the more famous and common photos we see from Norway is the herring, where they do the balls. They get the herring in a ball and they do the tail snapping and that kind of thing. What's that like? What's that like to watch personally when you're there in the water and diving and watching that?
How to what was the feeling about watching this carousel feeding? But that's unbelievable, because you can see a lot of herrings from the surface first. You can see some orcas. They are traveling, and all of a sudden the whole group changed direction, but it's a bit chaotic. So then the birds are coming, and then you think, okay, something is happening. The birds are getting lower and lower, and when the orcas start to turn around the balls of herring to make the ball more dense,
Right.
then you see the birds going lower and lower because they know something is going to happen. And then when
we prepare, we say, okay,
and then
snorkelers, get
that's time to
prepared.
go in the water. And
I'm
when
sorry, I
you're in
missed
the
that.
water,
I missed what you said the last thing.
Yeah, that's when we say it's usually to the snorkelers, okay, get prepared, something's happening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
it's a time to go in the water, and then when you're in the water, then you can see the orcas turning around the ball, make the ball very compact.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's unbelievable, because then you see the orcas turning around, showing their belly to the herrings.
Yes.
So they show that because the belly is more white than black. So it scares a little bit the herrings. So all the herrings stay together. And when the ball is really dense, then some other orcas are coming from underneath and make some like 360 flips and knock down some herrings. And then you see some herrings which are not sometimes dead, but some orcas come and pick them up one by one. And you see all the communication, the vocalization between the orcas, and then sometimes, unfortunately for the orcas, but good for the guests and the snorkelers, when the ball is done and the orcas made all of it, all the work, then some whales are coming. And if you have 2-3 whales opening their mouths, and then they grab all the bed bowl, and then it's done. And then the orcas think, oh, okay, we did all the work, but now it's over because the whales got all the herrings.
What
but,
what kind of whales are coming in?
humpbacks.
Oh, the humpbacks come in.
Humpbacks, yeah.
And, oh, I didn't even know, huh? So humpbacks swallow herring too.
Yeah, and more, the scientists they had a study showing that the orcas, they are using less and less vocalization and sound,
Right.
because the orcas, they thought, okay, the humpbacks are listening to the humpbacks, yeah, are listening to the orcas from far away, and then they come the last minute, and when the ball is done, then they grab their lunch. So now the orcas more and more are using less and less sound to make sure that it does not attract the humpback whales.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Because I know that the orcas also, they go in silent mode when they are hunting the mammal, the seals and whatever the marine mammals, for the same reason, that they don't want to be heard.
Yeah.
I've never heard, this is news to me, that they do that also when they're doing herring because of the humpbacks. And I just have not heard that before. How long, when the ball gets tight, how long does it stay that way? Is it a matter of minutes? How long does it stay in tight formation?
Really depends. It depends if you have humpbacks in the area. If you don't have humpbacks, it really depends on the size of the ball.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have a small bed ball, so it can last around 15-20 minutes.
Oh, pretty long.
Less.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you don't have humpback whales around,
Right.
sometimes if the bed ball is really big,
Right.
we had
A rush feeding for
we had a rush feeding, I
4 or
guess
5
for like
hours.
2, 3, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But the
Wow.
rush feeding is a bit different because then the herrings are moving.
Right.
And for example, for the snorkelers, you put them on a place, they can see a lot. And then after a few minutes, it disappears. They come back on the boat. We do like 50 meters, go again in the water, and they see more. And the ball is moving constantly. But the ball which is not moving, like a normal feeding, I would say, is between like 10-15 minutes and like 40-50 minutes for the biggest one.
That's amazing. And does the ball size, is it dependent on the number of orcas participating and working together? If there's 4 or 5 orcas working together versus 10 or 12 or something like that?
Oh, we haven't seen.
No, it really it does not depend on the number of orcas around the herrings. It really depends on the number of herrings on the place.
Okay.
Because
All right.
in the fjord, you have herrings everywhere. It's billions of herrings, and some herrings, there are maybe few thousands. Some other balls, it's maybe a few millions, and some big balls, it's like
Huge.
more than that, and then it can last for a lot.
Yeah.
Like a football field or something.
Yeah, we had a feeding this year. It was what, mid of November, so it was just outside where we live in Never Bay, and they were traveling between one bay to another, and you had a very small corridor with some rocks and everything. So you were seeing the orcas going past by this little corridor and moving the ball from one small fjord to another.
Mm-hmm. I think your sound is cutting. Okay, your sound came out for a minute.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. And so yeah, the orcas were around, and your internet connection is stable. I don't know. Sorry. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, no, I can hear you fine now. Yeah.
Okay. And suddenly a fin whale came over, a couple of seconds, ate a bit after whale. And so the guests were like, okay, so I saw orcas, fin whales, humpback whales. And he's like, what is this? Is that like a brown towel? And it was an otter, a little otter who came in, and you had the eagles, and he was like, what the hell is that, Jurassic Park?
That's an adventure. You get fin whales in there, the greyhounds of the ocean. I mean, that's unbelievable.
More and more we're getting fin whales, and so last season we are now in collaboration with a French professor in acoustics. He was working a lot also with Orca Lab. He is French, obviously,
Right.
So Hervé Glotin with his assistant Marion. So he came there first for 2 weeks to see what was happening, and he got in 2 weeks these amazing recordings of these 3 species
Right.
of the females on the same tape, and he was like, "This is unique."
Uh-huh.
And so he's been working with his acoustic footage during all the year, and he also, coming back to what we were saying about the humpback whales listening to the orcas, he has maybe a theory that orcas say one word saying herrings, and that the humpback whales understand that word, and the orcas also understand the humpback word for the herring. So he's trying to see if it's not like an interspecies communication.
Right. Yes, that sounds exactly possible.
So he's coming back end of October. He's going to be putting some hydrophones all over the fjord, and he will be monitoring this for the whole winter season and coming after with us during 2 weeks.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I had no idea you had that. And in the Pacific, of course, there's the outer, they call them the outer orcas, and they will hunt the big whales. They'll hunt blue whales and fin whales, but you don't have anything like that in the Norwegian waters, I don't think. The orcas hunting whales, big whales.
Not in my,
Not that we know.
not
They
really.
hunt some armor-purpose. They can hunt some
Seals.
dolphins, seals, but maybe they hunt some whales. But we never heard anything about it.
Yeah, I haven't either. I was curious about that. So obviously they're in this feeding mode, and if you're around, they're not even paying attention to you because they're so focused on their feeding. But when that's over with, and they get curious and they begin to go back to other activities, and sometimes they'll actually come over to the divers and just be curious and check you guys out, and just what's that like when you have an orca swim right up to you?
I have like 2 nice stories about that. The first one was so it was a whole day of feeding a small pod and 1 whale, and we were very lucky. I think 3-4 hours they were just hanging around, and there's one of a snorkeler. He was a professional photographer. He was in the water, and suddenly we started to hear things in the tuba, and we realized that he was crying. So he came back on the boat and was like, "What happened?" And he showed us the footage, and it was this female coming in front of him, looking at him at maybe 2-3 meters, and started to spit a little seashell.
Oh.
And so he didn't move. He just like stayed and didn't do any movement.
Right.
So she went back, she went to the deep, and she came back with a jellyfish. And and he was still like, "I'm not moving, I'm not doing anything." And she was like, "You're skinny, what do you eat on, So this is kind of when they try maybe to communicate and try to have a interaction, and never time. That was really nice to see. So we had an amazing day. Polar night was coming, it was sunset, everyone was tired, but we were still looking at the pod. They were all resting after a feeding, so they are lined up all together, and it was really, really pretty. And you had the juveniles and the teenagers, which hadn't hunted, so they were full of energy, and they were playing, splashing, spy hopping, chasing to each other, coming to the boat and doing lots of noise. And suddenly we see this huge whale, just like a submarine, like lowering down, going in the water, and we're like, oh. And everyone was staying still. And after 1 or 2 minutes, he came out, but he did a spy hop on the other side. So he put his whole body tail up, stayed tail up a couple of seconds like that, went back in the water, went back in place to sleep with the rest of the pod. And after a couple of minutes, these juveniles were trying to do the same, but of course they didn't have a body strength. So they were like falling and they were trying to, copycat what the orca bull said. Okay, children, now it's enough. Do this. It will keep you steady. And stay like that 5 minutes.
That is a great story. Great story, Julie. It tells you how much they communicate and how much they're like us in some ways, and of course very different in other ways. But it sure is it's got to be a lot of fun to be like that. You said that bull comes up, and I know intellectually, he's not going to eat you because they're not going to bite or hurt humans on purpose anyway, or even accidentally. But still, there's maybe a little heart rate kind of goes up, a little apprehension.
They're still big.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a story on you have a story you want to share?
No, but it was the two same. We had also a friend who was a guide for us last winter, the winter before, and next winter. And he had a picture and a video. He called this picture the kiss. And this orca male, really big, came to him, maybe not even 1 meter, maybe less than that, half a meter. And he came to Jeremy, the guide, and he opened the mouth, showed the teeth,
right,
and turned around and look at Jeremy and leave. And that was beautiful. And myself, I did a dive where I saw a orca male also, pretty big, and trying to get one earring. And he was really close for me, and he opened the mouth to get the earring, and then turned to look at me and clapped the mouth, but of course missed the earring, and then turn around to get the earring back. And so it's a lot of story like this where people get some really close encounters, and it's underwater. It's above water is beautiful, but underwater it's unbelievable. It's another world.
Different world,
Well, I can't. You can see the pictures, but I can't imagine the actual experience of that larger animal.
Sometimes also the orcas and the whales. Some of them they sometimes use the boat also as a barrier. So they would push the earrings.
Right.
It happened to us sometimes also with the whales, and they would use the hull of the boat, even if it's not, of course, a deep hull. It's a reef boat.
Right.
But they push them to the boat, and it avoid them to have too many whales around and making some circles. And then they come up straight, like 1 meter from the boat, and they use the hull of the boat as a kind of reef.
Well, you're not talking about the rigid inflatable boat. You're talking about a real boat. How big's the boat?
No, our boat is 8 to 10 meters.
Oh, okay.
And it's a reef boat, so it's not like a 2 meters draft. It's a half a meter draft. But still, they use sometimes the hull as a blockage for the earrings.
That's interesting. They're smart, and I guess they probably I don't know if I can't say feelings, but they probably they know you're out there, and they know that that's okay. They can do that, and it'll work, and everybody's going to be fine. And that sounds good.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask you? Oh, I was going to ask you about the base camp. I was looking at your site, and I was looking at the base camp, and it looks wonderful. It's very rugged. I saw the picture in the winter with the snow, and in the summer without the snow. But it's just you have what's it called, a large house with lots of rooms in it, and then there's tents, and you have fires and jacuzzis and saunas. And can you talk a little bit about what it's like in the camp and everything, like when you're out of the water for your guests?
Well, we do live in a very remote area. It was also a choice because the first town where usually ever companies are in is in Chevreuil, so it can be quite busy at the harbor and lots of boats going out from this harbor. Where we are 12 nautical miles from the first town. So we rent all the houses from the locals, which have their houses for summer. So it's a secondary house.
Oh, I see.
So it is typical Norwegian houses where people actually live there in summer. And so, yeah, we have no shops, no bars, nothing. So it's quite peaceful. And so we are very helped with our cook chef, Alfred, which is from this area. He's a Sami.
Right.
Without him, I don't know if we could have managed to live there, because of course it's a big organization. All the groceries come by ferry. We have to order a couple days before. If the weather's not good, the ferry will not pass, so we won't have the food.
Oh,
So it's a lot of organization, preparation. Same for the fuel for the boats. There's no fuel station where we are, as it's also a peninsula, which is blocked by a chain of mountain. We have to be careful also with the water, because the water comes from the mountains. So it's a bit like living on a boat, going back like to the essentials and be very careful with what surrounds you. So we try not to do too much garbages, be careful with the water. We do mostly, well, our chef does mostly everything, the bread. We slaughter also the reindeers on the island. So we prepare the reindeer on Segevik. Same for the fish, wild salmon, wild cod, halibut. So we try really to eat what is around us, and what is imported is of course the vegetables.
Sure, yeah, I have to import those. Sure, you don't have a greenhouse. So the chef is Sami, and for our listeners who don't know Sami, they're the indigenous people of northern Scandinavia and into Russia as well, and they're reindeer herders. They're kind of like in North America, there was the buffalo followers, with the Sami are the reindeer followers, and they're semi-domesticated. Is there anything you'd like to add about the Sami people and how that culture influences your tourism?
Well, they're very connected with the nature. They have this different philosophy that we had before, like at what time or which day are you going to be crossing the fjord, when are the reindeers coming, when can we get back the meat, we need a schedule. And each answer was like, I don't know, it depends. And you're like getting crazy, like, it depends what? It's like, it depends on the animals, how fast they'll be walking, and the weather, and after you start thinking, and you're like, yeah, it's true. And the people, like, for example, we have a good friend which is herding his reindeers in Segevik. He has a couple hundreds of reindeers, and he knows they have a name for each of them.
Wow.
And if they talk with family members, and they will be maybe saying, the brown and white with a crooked horn, they will know exactly which reindeer they're talking about.
That's amazing.
And they have, I think, 600 words also to explain what the different types of snow. And you're like, well, why? And you're like, why so much words for snow? And they're like, yeah, but we work with our animals, and we have to know what kind of snow they'll be walking in. If I should take the snowmobile or the ATV, or it's quite great.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The most beautiful things about
I think it.
I can hear you. Everything's fine.
It's still good.
The most beautiful things about the Sami culture and the reindeer is that they respect so much their animals. They want to make absolutely sure that the reindeers are going to live their life like fully, in the wilderness,
Mm.
and and once they have to kill maybe few reindeers, there's absolutely no waste.
No.
Everything is consumed. The skin, the legs, they do something with everything.
Right,
So
right.
the full body of the reindeer is used. So and that's for us
Big respect.
big respect. And when they kill one, we help them in September to hurt them in the fence, and help them to kill them, and we can see that each one of them is a. I don't know if they make a prey when they kill one, but I'm sure they have a thought for each reindeer they kill.
Sort of honor
Yeah.
the animal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's wonderful. It's a culture that revolves around this, not unlike, like I said, North America and the natives there in Canada about the buffaloes, but also reindeer are caribou in North America. They're the same species, but they're called caribou. And there's the Inuits, and they have somewhat of a similar relationship with caribou, where I don't think they don't domesticate them, and they're not quite as involved culturally as they are in Scandinavia. I think that's a unique situation in Scandinavia. I'm curious, occasionally there'll be a report about in the Pacific Northwest where an orca might feed or prey on a moose.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I heard about it, but it was during COVID time, so we were very lucky. Okay, we had no guests, but we went out at sea as soon as the weather was good. So, well, yeah, we enjoyed it a lot. And we suddenly saw something was preparing a feeding, and just at the same time, a huge flock of reindeers was crossing the fjord, and behind we had the orcas. But no, we haven't. I never heard of.
Yeah, they just ignore the reindeer. Well, they'd probably rather have a seal or a herring than a reindeer. Reindeer's got antlers and bones and a bunch of stuff that they don't really want. So, yeah, that makes sense that they wouldn't prey on reindeer. Well, is there anything else you wanted to let our viewers know about what it's like to be Orca people, Orca lovers, Orcaholics, I think they sometimes call them.
Yeah, Orcaholics, yeah, but the thing is that it's true that we are lucky. I mean, I would not change my life. I don't think Rodolphe would either. We had a previous job before, and which was not related at all. And we came as tourists the first time in Norway to discover these orcas with another company. And every winter, we're like, okay, should we go somewhere else? And no, let's go back to Norway. And after a couple of years, yeah, we were caught into it, and we decided to move and to our passion. And I think
also there's something to say about, as you say, loving orcas, and they always wonder, is it really good for the welfare of the orcas to go in the water, for example, or to approach them with a boat?
Right.
My answer would be, we've been doing this for a lot of days, a lot of months and years. What I can say is, if you approach the animals in a nice way, in a respectful way for the orcas, sometimes, even if you stop the engine, they would come to you. As a dolphin, as orcas are, they would come to you by curiosity, and the same in the water. If you respect them in the water, they would come to you, and I think for the orcas also, seeing humans, it's a kind of education, and I think they need the juveniles. They need to be educated by the adults, to see the adults, to see the humans, just to understand who we are, and sometimes it's safe because it's whale watching. Sometimes it's not safe because maybe it's fishermen and maybe the net is dangerous and whatever. But at the end, for the orcas, it's really important also for them to have some contacts
If
in a good manner.
we disturb them, the orcas will be diving and you will lose them, and they will not be following the boat. Or, I mean, if a boat changes direction or speed, you will see that the animals will scatter around and they will dive and they will just leave.
But a lot of guests, they realize that if you approach them in a certain way, the orcas are coming to you. You must not come to the orcas, but and it's very, very different from, of course, Canada, for example, because Canada, you cannot. The many times I've been kayaking with them in Vancouver Island. Of course, you cannot approach them with a certain distance. And sometimes the orcas, they decide to come to you and what you're doing there. And it's the same in Norway. In Norway, there's no rules, but it's not because there's no rules that you must not respect your own rules of approaching wild animals.
Right. Well, I know, I saw on your site that you basically, safety is first. You talk about going very slow, approach them from the side, never from the front or the back. And it's true, they do come to you and they can go 35 miles an hour. They can be away from you so quickly that if they don't want to be by you, they can. And there is, sporadically I'll read criticisms about, divers diving right on top of orcas or whatever. And there's probably a few cases of abuses in the Atlantic. There's cases of abuses in the Pacific too, but those are rare. It's because most of the people that are involved in this, in the industry, so to speak, it's also that they love nature and love these animals. And so there's not going to be much violation of that. So I appreciate it. I think all our viewers appreciate that the people that are running these programs and whale watching, whatever, are very aware and cognizant and educate people about what to do and what not to do. And like I say, I think Rodolphe, it's the orcas really are learning too. They identify, they can see whose boat it is. They can identify people from other people. I mean, maybe there's not exactly scientific proof of that, but there's sort of anecdotally, it seems like it's very plausible, logical, and it's probably true. So anyway,
for example, one of the example is sometimes if you're in the water, or even not in the water, but if you're in the water, you can see some also the mother, but the aunt or godmother, coming with juveniles next to you, and once they're next to you, they leave the juveniles after a few seconds, coming to you just to check.
Right.
And again, we are not scientists, but you have the feeling that okay, they come with the juveniles to you, let them alone to make sure they do their own education. They're not far. They stay in a certain distance, like quite short, and just to make sure everything is okay. And you see sometimes even, and the whales, the humpback whales, is exactly the same. The mother come with the cub and the calf, sorry, and come to you. Let the baby whale coming really close to you. Right. And if there's something wrong, then you can see the mother coming and push the baby away. Right. And for sure, it's a kind of education for them too.
Yeah. Well, mothers are going to do what mothers do, and that's the safety from their side, from the cetacean side. They're a safety. From the human side, you're the safety. So there's plenty of safety going on. You're beginning to cut in and out a little bit. We're going to go ahead and post this anyway, because a lot of times when your video will freeze, but we can still hear you talking. So I think that's good. And we got most of it. And I think we're going to wrap it up here soon. And I just really want to thank both of you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I do hope that we hope to see you maybe one day in Segovia.
Oh, well, I'd love to. You talk about, I like to exchange places with you myself. It'd
Pleasure.
be so much fun, but I think there's a lot of people that just envy your lifestyle and your choice of lifestyle and the good work that you do, with the orcas and in education and entertaining too. It's for some people, they put on their phone and they see a picture of an orca like that one you have of the two people swimming with orcas, and these beautiful orcas, and it's so peaceful. We posted it on our website 2 days ago. But it's just, they see that and it's just, it enriches their lives, and it's just a wonderful thing to be able to share. So again, thank you very much.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
And
But just a little thing, but this morning I just talked about it because it was this morning. I was driving and there was like a kind of video on a big thing on the road showing Marineland in Antibes. And it was also at the same time after at the radio and with some kids talking about, oh yeah, it's the only place you can see orcas and you should go there, and oh, it's beautiful, you can see them spy hopping and you can see them jumping nowhere else in the world. And I was so sad about that. And we talked usually about this one day, and maybe you have some connection, but we always dreamed about for this marine park to impose them to have like a 2-3 minutes video about orcas in the wilderness.
sure.
Just to make sure that the people waiting for the show in the swimming pool, they look at the orcas in the wilderness and say, oh, okay, they have nothing to do in a swimming pool.
Yeah,
And that should be something nice to have from different part of the world, showing orcas
Yes,
in the wilderness.
Yes.
And so people say, okay, natural behavior is not exactly the behavior they show in Marineland. They never, not never, but they usually don't do like flips and jump and do a flip. It's really rare. But of course, when you go there, they say, oh yeah, it's so natural, that's a natural behavior. And people have to understand that's not this kind of animal does not belong to this kind of place.
Well, Rodolphe, that's great, and I think that it
We can see you,
very
but not
important.
hear you.
That's really why we're Global Orca Society. It's our mission to find people that are out of the all around the globe, because these orcas are all around the globe in the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. And so we're going to post this video. People will know more about you now because of this, and more, have a more of a personal connection. We'll put a link to your website and encourage people to think about going to Norway to see orcas instead of up to Seattle. Just take a trip and go see them someplace else, because they're wonderful to see wherever they are. So again, thank you both very much for this time.
And I hope to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much to you too. I hope to see you in Norway one day.
Go back to your roots.
I will. I believe me. I'll. If I'm getting into that neck of the woods, I'm going to give you a call and expect a great meal, from your Sami chef.
Oh, yeah.
You will have.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. We're going to say goodbye. Sami, go ahead.
Have a nice weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.